Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I don't often do this, but I recently met Ayush Garg, and I knew that he had to come on the podcast immediately because of the work that he's been doing since he was a teenager, before most of us probably knew about NLP and different AI modules. And then, of course, now we're living in the world where Gen AI is everywhere. So thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure and honor to be here.
I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your backstory that we were just talking about and what you shared with me previously. How old were you when you got into the world of research? What was your interest in it? And what were some of the first things that you accomplished?
Yeah, amazing question. And I think to start off, what really motivated me to even try any of this, right? To even just try research when I was young was my parents. Both my parents are scientists. And when I was growing up, I saw them spend hundreds of hours when they were doing their PhD. So sort of line this up, right? I'm a teenager, I'm growing up. Even when I was 12, 13, I'm seeing my mother do her PhD. I'm seeing her download research papers, go through them. And then I see my dad do the same thing because they lined it up in a way where she did her PhD first and then he did one. And all through this process, obviously I was learning about the PhD process because they would take me to their research lab. They would take me when they went to their principal investigator's house and they had chats with him. So I was there during all of it. Made me very aware of what the research process looks like. Then I turned 16. Obviously, I know about research. I'm passionate about it. My parents are researchers, but at the same time, I find computer science very interesting, the ability to create something. And, as everyone who starts off young with CSS is just, I can create something using this imaginary tool. I love it. I had that same passion as well. At 16, then I go to hackathons because that was the thing then. And I think it still is to a large extent. That's where you get your first experiences with CS. I met this professor, Dr. Peter Rust from the University of Cambridge. I think he's a reader emeritus now. And he shared a story with me that really resonated and I think shaped my life forever in a way. That one moment, I think that I can recall really shaped my life. And we just started talking about how difficult it was for researchers to actually do research, not really looking at one research field, but research in itself. I mean, people did spend hundreds of hours trying to find the right information. As I saw my parents do the same thing. So we started talking. And before this, I didn't have any NLP experience. But he told me, Ayush, if you want to do something in this field, the first thing that you need to do is solve the problem of downloading a lot of papers quickly. Because if you want a computer to analyze them, we need something to download them. And we need you to build it because you're passionate about it. You can learn, go build it. Wow. So that was when I first got started with CS and NLP. The first tool that I ever built was Spygate Papers. And that was when I was 16. So sort of my first touch with formal coding there. I'd done previous projects, but that was really when I formally got introduced to the field of natural language processing.
And this is all from Singapore?
Yeah, well, I moved to Singapore when I was 16. So that was also a big shift that happened in my life. I got a scholarship at one of the colleges there or one of the high schools there. I sort of just packed my bags, moved away to Singapore.
Oh my gosh. Well, where did you grow up before that?
I was in Delhi.
Delhi. Okay. Amazing. So at 16, you just took off. Your parents were still in India and you went on this new adventure. What was that like going into Singapore, starting a new everything, new experiences, new friends, new school?
Yeah, I am really grateful for that experience. I think it was definitely something that cannot be recreated. The biggest thing and, why I sort of reached out was it taught me marketing because you go to a new place. What's the first thing that you need to do? You need to sell yourself to others or you need to establish your network. You need to find your people. So even before Singapore, I had to do that so many times because I shifted houses like 7 times that when I entered Singapore, I just knew that I want to do something in technology, but also marketing is something that I'm incredibly and deeply passionate about. Just because I'm marketing myself to the technology executives here, I'm marketing myself to the companies here who I want to work with, I'm marketing myself to teachers, to students. And the amalgamation of that was, I think, what results in Answer This Now.
Mm. Well, and that kind of takes us up to today. So you had an experience in Singapore. Now you're in the United States. You are still in your undergraduate program, which kudos to you. I almost wonder if you even needed to get the degree. But of course, if your parents are PhDs, because it seems like you already have so much knowledge and you already had studied the things that you are now majoring in.
Yeah, no, certainly. And the US, the land of opportunities. I came here, and previously throughout all of my life, I'd always known that I wanted to build something, but I
Oh,
didn't know what I want to build. I get papers and doc analysis, the tools I built with the professor in Cambridge, they were great and people were using them. But I didn't see them as commercial ventures. Neither did I see them as something that could support me after college,
uh,
or, that I could have other people come on and actually cause a change in the world. When I came to the US, and it's a lot of factors that sort of led to it, but really what people told me was you can do anything. And that's what stuck to me in the first year, especially when I talked to everyone and I talked about my skills and I talked about my passions. The biggest thing that they came out was they said, yeah, you can do anything. What do you want to do? That's what they would ask me. So there's a whole story there as to why I started doing what I do now. But really what it gave me was a lot of courage, a lot of determination as well.
and talk to us about Answer This. What is it? How do people use it? Who is it the perfect market for?
Yeah. So following from, we've talked about the idea of Dr. Peter making me passionate, or, me combining the narratives that I'd seen my parents go through with the knowledge that Dr. Peter talked to me about, and sort of how people use the tools that I'd built previously. Obviously, there was a huge need in the market for something that revolutionized the knowledge and the research space. Now AI comes about, right? Everyone sort of, I come to the US, and that sort of lines up perfectly with when ChatGPT comes out. And ChatGPT was really meant to be this transformative tool that could do anything. And this is the early days of ChatGPT that we're talking about. I was already part of a lot of different research communities. I talked about what they talked about. I read what they wrote, just blogs and forums and all of these different places. Everyone shifted their narratives to now, how can we use ChatGPT to do our research? Because research is taking too long and everything that we've already discussed. But now we might have a solution that could actually do what we're looking to do. But what actually happened was ChatGPT was not useful in this entire process. Sure, you could rewrite your abstracts and you could add in a couple of words here and there. You could ask it to tell you about a certain topic and hope that it knows what it's talking about. But it started outputting fake citations. It started talking about papers that never existed. If you ask it something new, it just, repeated the answer of, oh, my cutoff limit is only till 2021 and now it's 2022. But still, the main point stood that the problem has still not been solved. And researchers, in a way, were left disappointed with the advent of Gen AI, because it could be something that would be big, but clearly with the first version of ChatGPT, at least that came around then, it wasn't something that was fruitful to them. So I saw this, and, this lined up with sort of my passion for entrepreneurship and wanting to do something. I called up my mother and I asked her if this problem exists and if she's tried ChatGPT to solve this. And she told me she has, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it gives fake stuff. And
Yeah,
as a
hallucination.
researcher, hallucination, right? Everyone has seen it. Go ask it to give you 10 papers on a certain topic and then see if they actually exist. 5 of them will not. And so that became the catalyst to now say, I've built research tools in the past. There's clearly this problem that, at least on a macro level, I can see the community facing. I definitely anticipate this space to grow a lot more because the research space is growing and so is AI. How do we create something that is positioned right at the center of this growth? And that was what Answer This came to be. So we took the idea of literature reviews, which is the first step of research. We married that with the advancements in AI technology, built our custom proprietary technology stack on top of it to utilize existing tools and ways that people hadn't imagined before. And then, now have created something that's able to process hundreds of millions of documents real time and give you comprehensive literature reviews with line by line citations. So at least that's been the trajectory so far as to what has led us to build this tool.
Mm-hmm. And what does it look like now? Because you're managing school, you also have Answer This. How are you marketing and how are you getting out to the world? And is it specifically still for people who might be pursuing higher education, or are there other use cases? Because I think about, I helped write a case study for a project that a firm that I work with did a project for the whole state of Illinois for the community college system. And so it walks through the process, the results, all of that. And it's been difficult to find a place for that to land. And so that was, I guess, the third part of my question, which I'll ask is, how do you decide what the credentials are for somebody to have their research on your platform?
Yeah, I think this is the perfect segue because one point that I missed earlier, and I think I really want to iterate on, is the fact that marketing in all of this is, I think, the most important catalyst for Answer This is growth. Because just as it stands, right, the main technology stack that we're using, anyone can go build that. It'd be, in a way, stupid of us to think that no one else can recreate Answer This. What no one else can possibly recreate is the community that we've built around the tool with the researchers. And all of that is marketing. So when we started off, how did we start off our marketing and how is it going now? Well, when we started off, we just looked in places where people complained. People complained on LinkedIn, people complained on Twitter, people complained on Instagram and Facebook. These were 4 places where researchers were complaining. And we found out what they were complaining about. They were just constantly tweeting, constantly posting LinkedIn about how AI is useless for research. That's where we started our marketing first. So we were just like, okay, well, these are people who are clearly complaining. They have a problem. We might have a solution. We don't know yet because we had just started off. Let's at least try to get them interested. So we started putting up posts in these places where we already saw them. And that's how we built our first user base for Answers. So even before we launched the tool itself, we had a wait list of about 1,000 researchers who were ready to jump onto the platform when it got launched. That's at least when we started 7 months ago. From then up till now, we've achieved sort of a 5x growth in terms of our user base. Now we're sitting at about 5,000 users and it grows daily. And in terms of how it's growing, and the first part of it is definitely the messaging, putting out the right information, putting out and saying the right things to the right people. But at the same time, providing enough value so that if I tell you about Answer This, you go tell it to other 10 people. And that's really what causes the steamroll engine to go off.
Yeah.
Now, going back to who is it for and who's our audience, I think with startups, a big part of what makes good companies great, and I've talked about this before as well with a lot of other individuals, is focus. Our focus is on researchers who are completing their PhDs. So, in terms of the ideal user for Answer This, that is definitely whom we're cultivating and who we want to go after. As far as who can use the tool, there's people from the government using Answer This to complete their literature searches. There's consultants. There's all of these different segments that are potentially going to be helped with the technology that we're creating. But as far as the market goes, we definitely want to have, one of our goals is to have all of the PhD students in the entire world using Answer This to conduct their research.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you are talking about marketing and how you obviously had seen a need in the market because of the experience growing up with your parents. Then you went back and asked them again, okay, now we have AI, but is this really effective for researchers? And you got an answer. Then you went out and searched, almost a keyword search, right, to see what people were saying who are in that community. So you're gathering your data, their pain points, and the customer persona. And you did this all organically. And then you were able to answer those and show how you solved the issues that they're having that nobody else has solved in the same way yet, so that you could be first to market. So I love the fact that you walked us through that whole process because it's something people often forget about, right? A lot of times people create products or services because it's something that they experienced, which is what you did, but they don't think about the other users or the real implications and how to best show what solution they're offering.
Yeah, 100% agree. And we followed, as a marketer, you probably see this, but we followed a very textbook approach to marketing, at least when it came to getting our first 1,000 users.
You have over 200 million research papers in the ecosystem. How did you aggregate all of those?
Great question. And the simple answer is we didn't, right? And it comes as a surprise, but I have a good answer for this. Basically, what we did was we found people who had already aggregated the research papers for us. And it goes back to the idea of startups where you want to sort of delegate as much as possible. We found three organizations mainly that already did the indexing work for us, and we just partnered with them directly in getting our tech database. So just found the three biggest companies that were aggregating papers, saw how to access it through them, and then suddenly just you plug it in and now you have 200 million papers at your disposal. Cool thing is, right now we just added two more repositories last week, which increased it from 200 to about 500 million papers now. And we also support preprints. So just by the way of this plug and play technology that we follow, where we just enter in repositories, we're able to grow from zero to hundreds and millions and more papers almost real time.
And are there any specific specialties that you tend to see in researchers going more to your platform, certain industries, certain, what majors, if you will?
Yeah, right now we really see researchers from all across. There's no one particular category that just jumps out to me. And it's like, okay, these researchers are really honing in on using Answer This. One area where I'm particularly interested to see Answer This grow, and one area that I'm especially passionate about myself, is definitely biology research. I think NVIDIA CEO said this, but that's the next wave of what's going to revolutionize the human experience. We are in biology where we were with chemistry like 300 or 200 years ago. There's a lot left to discover about the human body itself and the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. So one of my goals is definitely to help advance biology using what we do in computer science in Answer This. But as far as the user base itself goes, I think everyone across the different fields where people could be doing PhDs is using Answer This.
Fantastic. And what about finding the right partners and co-founders or team? What was that experience like? Because you have a pedigree, you've done this work before, but you're also young. So did people take you seriously? Did you find more people who are some similar age or people you'd worked with before? What does that look like?
Yeah, it was really difficult. When people, talk to me and they don't know my age yet, everything goes fine. And then I suddenly tell them, hey, I'm still in college, by the way, because they ask, oh, where am I? And that really was a problem in the first few months or first few years of me just building anything, because I knew what I could do, but I also knew that people didn't expect other students to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
So a big skill that I had to develop to sort of counter against this is definitely authority building. And it's a huge component. Even when you go and learn sales theory, authority building is one of the main verticals there. How to enter in a conversation and establish that this is what you know and this is what you can offer. That was a big component to it, and sort of making sure that we're not put down just because we're early and young into this.
Yeah.
When it came to finding the right partners, though, it was people who understood where we were coming from and could read our mind before we said a word. That's at least the approach that I like to follow. If I start telling someone about Answer This and suddenly, their head starts spinning and they ramble on ideas about what I was thinking as well, that's a very clear indication that they see what I see in terms of at least the overall vision. And I think having partners like those definitely puts your company in a way where it's going towards a centralized goal. And that's a big thing which I follow in finding the right partners. When it comes to finding the right co-founders, that was a daunting process, because before reaching my current co-founder, I think I experimented with 3 different people. And that's at least what I recommend to everyone else. It's sort of like marriage, entering in a co-founder relationship with someone, and it's okay to date before you marry. So it was a lot of just talking to people, having them contribute in meaningful ways, and seeing, did they align with the vision that I see for Answer This in the next 4 years, for in the next 5 years. If they did not, it was all right. But if someone did, how do I cultivate that relationship? And how do I sell this idea to them in a way that they're incredibly passionate about it to the same extent that I am? So definitely it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of working with different people and seeing what do they produce? Are they fit for entrepreneurship in itself? Can they add on to Answer This 10 times more than what they take away? And just continue this process till I found my co-founder right now. Also happens to be my best friend. And the journey hasn't been the same after finding him. It's really grown a lot after bringing another person on board.
Yeah. And what about investment? Did you need a lot of investment to get this started? How was that difficult? What has that process been?
Yeah, we actually are completely bootstrapped till this day. We haven't picked up a single dollar from venture capital. And it's sort of the result of AI in itself. Right now, if I want to code something and answer this, or if I want to prototype it, instead of having a team of five do that for me, I just go to Claude or
Oh,
ChatGPT
yeah.
and ask it to create that. And that's been instrumental in cutting down our costs. The other big idea that we've followed is we want to create a SaaS app. How do we minimize our costs in such a way that we can use the dollars that we have at hand the best? Because you don't want to dilute your equity too much either. So definitely following the approach of bootstrapping as much as we can, getting the high traction points. And then if we ever think that we really, really need capital, going after capital then. So staying away from it as much as possible is at least the strategy that we've followed so far. And I know it's a bit of a controversial one because you entered the entrepreneurship world and the only metric that people really care about is how much money have we raised. But we're sort of trying to detach ourselves from that mentality and just focusing on the user and solving the problem.
Yeah. I love that shift in perspective and how you're talking about how AI tools have been able to help you with that process.
Yeah, no, AI has been absolutely instrumental. If you look at our current just company processes, you wouldn't see a single one which doesn't have AI in it,
No, no.
whether it be marketing. And, you actually gave me a lot of cool marketing ideas for AI, but whether it's marketing or sales, it's editing pictures or videos, it's writing blog posts, or even the code itself. AI is in everything that we do.
Yeah. How do you think AI is going to change now that people, last year learned about Gen AI and now that it really is embedded in everything we do as marketers? What do you think is the next step, the next aha moment?
Yeah. So earlier, marketing used to be big teams and they used to have people doing a lot of the groundwork and creating the posts after, the heads understood the customer persona and they understood what the market wanted. I think we're going to streamline that process by a lot. If you're a person who understands the market, if you're a person who also understands the customer, and if
Mhm.
you want to create the right copy, if you want to create the right messaging and the right deliverables, you just need to know the first part of the equation. A lot of that prototyping and iteration is going to be done using AI. A lot of it already is. There's so many tools on the market right now where you can just go enter in what you want your post to look like. And it's going to create 10 different iterations of that post for you. So we're not going to ever go back from this. That's also the big thing. People usually think that, okay, it's a shift. I don't know what the mentality with the normal audience is, but it's almost seen as an oscillatory shift when it's really not. The
Hmm.
shift is just going to keep on advancing. So if they think right now the market is changing because of AI and someday it's going to recover, well, no, the market's just going to change completely.
Mhm.
And unless you align yourself with the changes that are occurring in every single field, then it sort of becomes a do or die situation in the same way that industrial revolution was, right? The machines came about. People thought that, if the machines take over, then it's going to be a big thing, but it wasn't. And then all of that. I think we're at the same place with AI right now. We have this monumental technology that us as humanity have just realized the potential of. There's a million things that we'll do with it, but now the world as we know it will never look the same again.
Mhm.
It's fundamentally going to shift to a new level that we haven't experienced before.
Yeah, I agree so much with that. What is your next step? You graduate with your undergrad next year. Are you going to then pursue your master's and your PhD while running your company?
Well, I don't think I'll have enough time for that. The biggest thing that I want to just dedicate my life to is this idea of helping researchers out. I have a clear goal in mind, and the goal is by the end of whatever I can achieve, whether it's across the next 10 years, next 20 years, next 50 years. At the end of it, what it's going to look like is you type in any question and an academic quality literature review just comes out and is synthesized from all of the existing literature that we have. So the part of understanding what's already out there is done in such a unique and quality way that you don't have to repeat the 2-year process of doing that yourself. If I can cut down the time that a PhD takes from 7 years to maybe 5 or 4 or 3 and take off that time that the literature review process takes, then I think I'll consider that a successful journey. And after college, that sort of just becomes the plan. I have this vision in mind. The world obviously needs to do this because every scientist that starts off their journey or starts off a new project should not be spending 20% of their entire time doing this one thing that we can automate, automating that, and then iterating based on user feedback.
Yeah. I want to go back to something because your mother in conversations and you mentioned about Gen AI, ChatGPT, hallucinates, gives you the wrong information. You partnered with these companies that are repositories for actual scientific research. Do they have safeguards? And then do you also have safeguards up to make sure that everything in your ecosystem is actual data and research and isn't that there's no room for these, bugs to get in and, create anything false?
Yeah, hallucination is an active problem. If I said that we're 100% hallucination free, I think any AI scientist will look at me and completely flat out tell me that I'm wrong, and I am. Nothing that we can create right now, in essence, can be 100% hallucination free, because at the end of it, anything that you build is software auditing other software. So just by that logical fallacy, saying that something is 100% hallucination free is more or less going to be wrong unless a breakthrough comes about and we're able to, completely transform the space. What we've done essentially till this point is minimize the hallucinations to an extent where if you use Answer for your daily research, you as a normal researcher is probably not even going to experience a hallucination once. Maybe across 100 different researchers who are making 100 different queries on Answer This, there's an instance or two where the model gets confused and outputs something that it should not. But the majority of the major problem which hallucination is, we've been able to solve through this idea of, okay, we won't really tell you the answer, we'll tell you exactly what document the answer came from and also what paragraphs constituted the arguments. So our job as Answer This is not only to provide you the right answer, is to provide you the right answer and also the 50 documents with 100 different paragraphs that were used to create it.
Amazing. And I'm a marketer. I'm in branding, marketing, podcasting. Would I be able to, when I'm also I'm finishing my master's degree right now with specialty in AI, as you know. I would like to get my PhD. I don't want to do 7 years, as you mentioned. But if I wanted to look up more research papers on my industries, I would find those as well.
Yeah. And for anyone who's listening as well, if you're doing anything related to researching literature, or if you want to pull out the right papers for you, and if you want to learn anything new about a field, just go on to Answer This and ask it that question, no matter what it is. And it sort of goes back to the underlying technology. The technology that we're building is specialized for researchers, but it's broad enough to the point where even my marketing team is using Answer This to figure out customer personas.
Wow.
You don't necessarily, you're not locked down by the idea of, okay, Answer This is just for research. It's great for research, but it's also great for a lot of different things. As far as your use case goes, which is finding the right papers in your field of marketing, I think Answer This is going to be amazing for that. And if it's not, then it becomes our duty to improve based on the feedback that you give us.
Fantastic. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you wanted to impart on the audience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I sort of want the audience to be cautious about is the impact of AI. A lot of people are ignoring it right now. A lot of people are not embracing it. And the biggest idea that I want to have everyone know, whether they're a marketer or they're a normal researcher or they're someone in a corporate job, you cannot ignore AI, because no matter what you're doing, your field is going to fundamentally change either right now or in a year's or 2 years' time. Mm-hmm. You have to make yourself AI ready. You need to know how to utilize AI tools. And, it's only going to help you. There's nothing to be afraid of, really. It's all about how do you uplift yourself and upscale your own skills using this new and amazing technology that we have available to us. For all of the aspiring founders who are listening to our conversation, I also want to iterate the fact that really, if you have a problem in your mind, which you're incredibly passionate about, if you want the world to change in a certain way that you believe is going to be fruitful for humanity and as a whole, just go on and start building. There's nothing that holds you back, especially in this world where resources are available at an unprecedented amount. The same company, if I were to build it 50 years ago, would have been nearly impossible without $1 million behind my back. And now a lot of these things can just be automated. So the world's growing at a crazy pace. There's unbelievable amount of opportunities that have opened up. I wake up every day and, the first thing or the first idea that flows to my head is I'm so grateful to be alive in the time when AI is available to us in the same way that it is. We're literally seeing the world change right in front of our eyes. Embrace this change and prepare yourself for it.
Amazing. Ayush, I really appreciate your insights, your wisdom, talking about so many different aspects of the aha moment. This is something you were really passionate and interested in, and that also it was a need in the market. You walked us through that journey to figure out how to target people organically to have the organic growth and what you're going to do next. Do you have a favorite quote, mantra, words of wisdom that help you keep inspired in your journey?
Yeah, there's a million quotes that I could probably say that have been very, very influential in my life, but something that I just cannot give up and has always stayed right at the middle of my heart is something that actually my dad told me. And it goes back to my entire philosophy. We were walking once and we were having a conversation and obviously knew about everything I was doing. I remember distinctly what he said. Think about any big idea that you have in your mind. It could either be a monetary amount, it could be a way that you want the world to change, it could be a product that you want to build, or it could be a company that you want to work for. Whether it's as simple as getting that A in the next class, or it's as big as making $100 billion, whatever you put your mind to, and the human brain, as he put it, is a wonderful tool that we have available. No matter what it is that you put your mind to, you can achieve it. And I want everyone to sort of walk away with that message, that no matter what it is that you're incredibly passionate about, maybe you want to be the president of the United States, or you want to create a big company, or you want to get that next promotion or learn a new skill. No matter what it is, if you really put your mind to it, and if you work towards that goal, there's nothing that's stopping you. Everything can be fought towards. Everything can be fixed. Everything can be attained. But really what it is just have a goal and start.
That's amazing. Very inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing with the audience today. And I also know in the show notes, we're going to be putting a special offer code, 25% off lifetime code. And they should just say Your Brand Amplified.
Yeah. If anyone checks out and answers this and puts Your Brand Amplified, they're going to get a 25% off on their lifetime subscription. Even if they're student, they can stack on the 20% student discount with the 25% Your Brand Amplified discount. And we would all love your feedback. So listeners, if you go to answer this and then type in a query, we would just love to hear what you like and dislike about it.
Fantastic. And I will, of course, leave people to answer this.io. And then you can follow on all social medias and you can find Ayush that way as well. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been just a pleasure. I love your excitement, your enthusiasm for this topic. This is how we connected, was through AI and marketing, as you said earlier. And I know this is going to add a lot of value to the audience as well. So thank you to everybody who's watching or listening to this episode. I'll be back again in a couple days with another amazing expert to share some tips and tricks to make your journey a little bit easier. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrangamplified.com.